I used to have a swimming pool here. And I built the deck, and a storm came through and snapped off a bunch of trees. You can see that whole tree line. The trees are snapped. That tree landed on my truck in my house, damaging the gutter slightly. Tree stump over there. I have pictures on video on YouTube of how this tree smashed my pool. And the insurance company said, we will replace your pool if you want. It would cost $11,000 to replace it all the way down to the water and the chemicals in the water. And I said, you know what, I was only in that pool about 5 times last year, and that was to clean it, because it's easier to clean from inside. So, what do I do with the spot where the deck was? The deck actually took a hit from that tree right there, and partly from that one. I built this deck 35 years ago, me and my son. And well, you can see, I don't even know how many trees came down. There's trees back there. Look at those trees back way up in there. Came down. They didn't say it was a tornado, but I think it was a tornado. I have video of looking out the window, but my wife is screaming, and she didn't want me to put that video on YouTube. So, but you can see it was not a normal breeze. I was warned by a YouTube weatherman named Max Velocity. That's his channel. I just happened to have him on, and he said people in western Pennsylvania need to prepare for 90-mile-an-hour winds headed toward north of Pittsburgh, and it's going to be there in the next half hour. And I called my kids and told them, and I moved my truck from where my wife's car is to where my truck is now to get away from that gigantic sycamore. And wouldn't you know it, that tree landed on my truck and my wife's car, doing minimal damage. But, so what do I do with the space? Okay, I used to store things under the old deck. Pool things, deck chairs, stuff for my garden, the fencing, my tomato cages, stuff like that. So I lost my storage, and I didn't want to do another pool. So what I did was I took the deck down and saved all of the 2x8s. There's one of the 2x8s I saved. And I left all the posts, but I had to cut 2 in the center out because my pool came to about here, so I only had 2 in the center. So, I don't know what that is. I rebuilt the deck. I had to buy 3 or 4 new floor 2x8s. That outside one is new. So is the one on the other side. And one down the center. And I was able to reuse all the wood for the subfloor. I took all of the decking off. I guess I could have used it, but since I'm going to be looking at it, I wanted to put new on. They were only less than $10 a piece for 12 footers. They're pressure treated. So what I'm going to do is I know these boards are exactly 12 feet long, exactly, because I didn't have to cut them because I bought them at 12 feet. And I put my spacing 16 inches on all the floor joists under there. And when I went to get them, I tipped the guy $20 to pick me out straight ones with no knots in them. And that's what I did. And I coated each board, both sides, with a waterproofing wood protector by Bear, B-E-A-R or B-A-R-E or something like that. And I coated both sides. And I coated the joists on top with 2 coats of that stuff. So, now what am I going to do with it? Well, I left the posts. Especially that one. Because I'm going to put a 12 by 10 metal shed on here. It's pretty solid. And I'm going to put the shed right up against this. And I'm going to put a 2x4 or a 4x4 on the inside of the shed and carriage bolt through that to give me a foundation to put shelving inside, stronger shelving, because with those metal sheds you really don't have something strong enough to put shelving that's going to hold any weight. So that one there was critical for that. But this deck is, let me think. I think it's 12 feet by about 14 feet. And in the back it's like 15 feet because I didn't think about it at the time. I wanted to use the entire width of a 16-footer. So I put my posts so I could use 16-footers and get a larger deck on that side. This side had to be exactly what it is to fit the pool properly, right up against the pool. So I lowered the deck to ground level, but it's not on the ground. So the wood is so that the wood is not in contact, but that wood is I think they call it's okay for ground contact, but I was able to bypass the ground contact, so it's pretty good. So it's done. I still have to finish putting the screws in. I only have 4 rows in. I pre-drill the holes with a countersink on it, and I had to custom fit those end ones because 34 years ago I never thought I'd be rebuilding the deck and I had to rip them into that shape, but it wasn't too bad. I'm not a carpenter, but it's level. The boards don't rock. I made sure that they were all level, all the tops of the joists. And I'm going to put a metal shed. Now I could go with a wooden shed already done. They will come and deliver it. But I didn't want that thing ripping up my yard and then sliding off and ripping up my deck possibly. And then they said, well, we could build it on site for another $1,000. And I thought about that. But a wooden, to do that, those decks, 12 by 10, right. They cost between $5,000 and $8,000. They're already done. And, I was looking at them, and the ones on display, like at Lowe's or Home Depot or those roadside places that have them out, they've been out for a couple years, you can see the wood swelling up from absorbing water, and the doors are sagging because of the weight of the water, and they don't want to close all the way and be perfectly square. So I'm thinking, you know what, they not only cost 6 to 10 times more, but they weigh around 2,500 to 3,200 pounds. So I think I'm going to go with a metal one. They cost anywhere from, for a 10 by 12, $400. Free delivery. But I want to get the heavier gauge metal and galvanized. with better hardware and a little higher deck, a little higher. And it has to slope to the right and left. I don't want it to slope this way and that way. I want it to go so I can put gutters to carry the water down to the creek below. So that's how I'm making use of the space where my deck was. I was able to salvage all of the floor joists, and I only had to add 1, 2, 3, and I replaced the original deck boards after I treated them on both sides. And when it's done, I want to put a handrail, or not a handrail, but a safety rail up too while I'm building that, especially in the back here. I don't want to end up down in the creek. Plus I have to get rid of this tree. But anyway, that's what I'm doing with the space my deck was on before a storm came. And smashed my pool and a whole bunch of other stuff. Then when the deck is done, when the shed is done, I'll remove these posts, the original posts. And just a little tip, I got all these gaps so uniformly even by putting a 16-penny nail in the first joist this way, and one in the center where it may look like it needs it. Then I would either use something to one of those bar clamps. You can flip them around and make them push, or you can make them pull. And I was able to bend them. I'm surprised how easy it is to bend them and then screw them into place. But that's how I was able to get all the gaps pretty much even. It's not my frame. It's not the boards that are bad. It's it was that I didn't really have to care how square the deck was when I put it up 34 years ago and put the posts in not really lined up, because I never thought I'd be using them again 34 years ago. That's why I had to do that cut right there, rip it along down to here and there. But somebody running for a bus will never notice it. I'll see you there.